Leica M cameras, M3, M2, M4, all the way up to the current M10, M11 digital cameras. Beautifully made, beautiful quality. If you're buying them secondhand, you've got to be very careful, because particularly the older ones, now for this video I'm going to talk predominantly about the pre-M6 cameras, so the cameras that were built before really the mid-1980s. They're going to be old. I mean, if you're buying an M4-P, which was the last of the M cameras before the M6, that is going to be close to 40 years old. If you're buying one of these, a Leica M3, close to 75 years old. So you do have to be very, very careful when buying them. There's a lot that can go wrong with them. Yes, they're reliable, but age takes its toll, and you really need to know what to look out for when you're buying these. Now, I've done quite a few videos on buying M6s and what to check if buying M6s. I'll put some links up above now for those. If you're buying an older camera, a pre-M6 camera, this really is the camera. This really is the video for you. Okay, so what do you need to look out for? The first thing to say is that they are mechanical, they do need to be serviced, they do need to be well maintained. So if you're looking for a camera, always check out its service history, and if one has been serviced recently, fantastic. If it hasn't been serviced, just bear in mind that at some point in possibly the near future you may have to get it serviced, and just take that into account when you're buying the camera. You don't want to buy an M3 or an M2, spend £1,000, and then within a year or so have to have it serviced at another £200 or £300. So just consider that a service might be necessary in the future. Now, when you're buying these cameras, there are fundamentally three things you need to check. Check out the cosmetics, check out the mechanics, and check out the optics. Now, all of these things are important. A lot of people will tell you, all you need to do is just stick a film through it, and if the film comes out, the results of the film are okay. Yeah, the camera's perfect. That isn't the case. Films do show you some issues. There's a lot of issues films don't show you. So do go through these checks as well. Okay, three things: cosmetics, mechanics, optics. Let's start with the cosmetics. This one is really fairly obvious. Just look at the camera. Use your common sense. Has the camera been used a lot? Has it been abused? Has it been misused? Look at the top corners to see if there are any dents on the top corners here. Look at the bottom. See if there are any dents on the bottom here. This particular camera, I don't know if you can see it, just there's a very light dent just above the strap plug. Not an issue at all. I mean, it is very, very light, but that does impact the value. So just look for signs that it might have been not necessarily abused, but maybe not used that carefully. If you see a lot of scratching on the base, a lot of dings and dents on the top, you can be fairly sure it's been used professionally. And if a camera has been used professionally, it's probably best to avoid it. Just have a look around the hinged back here. Just make sure that there isn't an excessive amount of metal showing through. Now, if they have been heavily used, it's not necessarily a problem if you've had them serviced recently, but it's just a sign that you're more likely than not to have some issues with it. A very clean camera is always going to be the best place to start. If you've satisfied yourself that cosmetically it's clean, it hasn't been abused, then go on and look at the mechanics. Now, these are mechanical cameras. They do need to be serviced, as I said. Check out the shutter first of all to make sure that the speeds are all working as they should be. Now, to do that, wind it on, set it on top speed, so in this case the 1000th, set it on 1000th, open the back, so just take the base off like that, just gently hold the back open. Now, do be careful not to stick your fingers through the shutter. That obviously is common sense, just don't go near the shutter, they are quite fragile. Hold the camera up to a bright source of light like that and fire the shutter. What you should be seeing is a bright flash of light as the horizontal shutter shoots across the film gate. Now, you can't measure it, you don't know it's 1000th, but if you hold it up to a light and just fire it, You want to make sure that you can see light at all points across the film gate. Often, if the shutter isn't adjusted properly or if there are mechanical issues beginning to develop with the shutter, you'll look up and you'll see light on the left-hand side but not the right-hand side, or you'll see light on the right-hand side but not the left-hand side. As the focal plane shutter opens and then closes again, it'll stick. And if you can't see light at a certain point across the film gate, then that means the shutter does need servicing. Then go down to the slow speeds, down to 1 second. Just hold it open again, being careful of the shutter, and just fire it on 1 second. Again, you're not timing it, but make sure the shutter opens completely, and then it closes completely. Sometimes the first blind will open and stick just before it opens fully. If it is sticking before it's opening fully, again, it's a sign that the shutter needs servicing. Just listen to it. Make sure that the mechanical whir you can hear, it'll be click, whir, click. That's what you want to hear. You don't want to hear stuttering. If it starts stuttering, again, that's a sign that it does need servicing. Go from a second to half a second to quarter of a second. You should be hearing it get faster each time. If the sounds are inconsistent, again, it's a sign it needs to be serviced. If you fire it every time and the noise is consistent, that's a good sign. Okay, so you've looked at the shutter. Next thing to do, just stick the base plate back on. Have a look at the rangefinder mechanism. Now, the rangefinder mechanism is the other mechanical part within the camera. As you look through, you can see various bright line frames, and you can also see the rangefinder mechanism in the middle. So as you focus, you cause two images to come on top of each other. Once they coincide, once they're on top of each other, it's in focus. Just pushing this little lever just here, that's the rangefinder activating lever there. Again, be careful of the shutter. By pushing that backwards and forwards gently and just looking through, you can move the rangefinder mechanism. So you'll see the rangefinder doing this. As you move it across, when it's in focus, you want to make sure that it's aligning horizontally, so like this. And if one image is above the other, as you look through the viewfinder, you need that adjusted. And also, if you go outside and focus on infinity, now something a long way in the distance, so a church tower or a radio mast, just make sure that as it comes into infinity, it does focus on infinity, so it doesn't focus beyond, and it does get there. So as you're focusing on the point at infinity, it does focus on infinity. Again, if you see the rangefinder go too far, or it doesn't go far enough, that's a sign that the rangefinder needs adjusting rather. Also, as you put the lenses on, if you've got a number of lenses to try, put them on and just make sure the correct frame comes in. So when you put the 35mm frame on or the 50mm frame on, it brings in the correct 50mm or 35mm frame in the viewfinder. If you can't do that, use the frame selector here and just make sure that as you move it across, each frame moves in and moves out as it should. If the frame selector mechanism is becoming a little bit sticky, you might find that one frame fails to disappear before the other frame appears. Again, that's a sign it needs servicing. So check out that. If it's got a self-timer, just fire the self-timer to make sure the self-timer is working. They're generally fairly reliable. Once you've looked at the cosmetics, then look at the optics. Now, once you've looked at the mechanics, then look at the optics. With the mechanics, they can be serviced. If the mechanism is sticking, that's not too much of a problem. When you move to the optics, if you have optical problems, that can be a lot more expensive to get sorted out. And in some cases, it just isn't financially viable to get it sorted out. So this is very important. Look into the viewfinder there. Shine a bright light into the viewfinder. Shine a bright light into the viewfinder here. And just make sure there's no nasty fungus or misting inside. I'll post a link up above to show what fungus is. You want to make sure the viewfinder mechanism is very clean. And just hold the camera up to a light and look into the rangefinder window here as well. It should be clean. You don't want to be seeing any misting or fungus inside. And if you can, that's a sign that there's maybe some fungus on the internal mirrors on the rangefinder. That can be very, very expensive to sort out. So just look into it front and back, and just make sure it's very, very clean. Then have a look through as you'll be using it. You'll see the bright line frames. Make sure all of those frames light up as they should. You might see some little marks on the frames. That's not the end of the world. That's quite common. But you want to make sure that you can see everything does light up as it should do. Once you've checked that, you've probably done as much as you can. It is a good idea to put a film through, of course. Check out the speeds, check everything out with the film. But as I said right at the beginning of the video, do these other checks as well. So you've checked out the cosmetics, you've checked out the mechanics, and you've checked out the optics. If you're happy with those three areas, you've got a clean bill of health in those three areas, then you've probably got a good camera. Go for it. Obviously, if you can buy with a return option, do that, and that'll give you an option, the opportunity to try the camera out thoroughly, and just make sure you're totally happy. If you're not, just return it and get a refund. I hope that's useful. If you have any comments, please stick them in the box below. Otherwise, please subscribe and like. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye bye.